Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon if you're in Europe. Justin Abramson here with you. J.R. Jones along for the ride. J.R., I know you may or may not have just woken up after a long night of drinking and partying, I believe, last night. How are you doing?
Doing great, and that's right. That's what I do on Monday nights is just go hard.
Drinking,
It's
partying,
Tuesday.
and changing tires of rental cars. Is that what I'm to believe?
Oh yeah, I mean, don't you just change tires on rental cars for fun, just to mess with the company when you send it back to them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a great activity. Um, but anyway, we are here to do the Atlantic League playoff draw. This is one of my favorite broadcasts of the year because folks can get in the chat and talk some trash about their fellow opponents. And so glad to have JR along. JR plays in the Western League. He's qualified for playoffs there. And so here we have Atlantic League. So just to go over the rules, there were 32 players who started out in Atlantic League. They were divided into four groups of eight. The top three players in each group, after a one game round robin, advanced to the playoffs. So 12 players total. In the playoffs, we will have the number two seeds play against the number three seeds in the first round. The winners of those will go on to play the number one seeds who get a bye in the quarterfinals. And then, of course, we will have semifinals, finals, and we will have a third place game, which is consequential because Atlantic League will almost certainly, although perhaps JR can confirm, be getting three Champions League bids as it has the last couple of years. And so the only rule in terms of placing players is that we cannot have any in-group rematches until the semifinals. So we'll have the number one seed, the number two, and then the twos and threes in the first round will be from different groups, and then the winners of those will guaranteed play someone who is not from either of their groups as well. So that will be our only restriction. JR, anything to say before we kick things off?
No, I'm excited to see. I was taking a peek at the players who advanced here, and I know almost all of them. A couple of them I think might be Atlantic League specialists, but a really good group of players that made the playoffs here, and excited to see how this bracket shakes out when we get started.
Okay. So here is we'll start with pot. We'll start with the number one seeds first. These players are all getting buys into the quarterfinals, so we'll decide which line each of them is on. And Jr. Present company excluded. Although I don't think I even need to say that. Who would be your favorite here? Who would be the number one seed you'd like most to avoid?
Well, you got to go with the guy who just completed his OTSL Gold season at 14-0, right? James Hawks, who I believe is pretty new. These are like his first two tournaments of Twilight Struggle, right? And he got the one seed in Atlantic League and the overall one seed in OTSL. So um, I've only seen him play once in the game you just streamed, but he's clearly a force.
Yep, and not a lot of game tape on him either. So yeah, James will be a tough out for anybody. So let us. So we will go down the line here in the playoff bracket from the top to the bottom. So let's see where James will wind up. We will open with. Is it going to be Ryan? Going to be me? It's going to be me. Oh, look at that round of applause! I turned that up a little too high. Okay, so
Perfect.
this guy is going into the first slot. I don't know much about
I'm, and
Justin Abramson.
I'm,
JR, do
I'm
you know
glad to
anything
see
about him?
that. Yeah, I'm glad to see that the hacking software is already working. I know you made it sure you rolled yourself first just to make sure that you were correctly controlling the dice on
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But yeah, Justin, he's an okay player. I think he's beat me once or twice. Unfortunately, luck mostly. But he's a decent player. He's been around the community for a bit. I think people kind of know him.
Yeah. Yeah. Playdeck can is sometimes his friend from time to time. He definitely doesn't get stuck in
Especially,
quagmires.
no, yeah, I was gonna say. I think recently he's been on pretty lucky play deck wise. I don't think he has anything he can complain about for probably the next month or two.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. All right. Next, we will have potential semifinal opponent for me is going to be Harry Wu. So I think we all know Harry. Harry, a popular YouTuber. Doesn't stream his games live, but does post them on YouTube. And certainly a great player. He won Group A this year.
And probably one of the more, along with you, one of the more experienced players in Atlantic League. I mean, he's been playing for a while now. He plays in most leagues. He plays OTSL, RTSL, ITSL, Atlantic.
Yep. So Harry won Group A. With that was as we discussed in the initial Atlantic League draw. Group A was the group of death. We had Harry, Scott, and Tim all in Group A. Tim just narrowly missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker. Wu Lee squeaked in as well. But that was a very tough group. Also, a couple of veterans in Justin Nordstrom, Michael Mitchell, who have both been playing for quite a while. So tough group. Group A was a tough group, and Harry a deserving winner at 6-1.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to be in that group. 6-1 in that group is a pretty impressive role there.
No doubt about it. Okay, our third number one seed is going to be James Hawks. So James is a bit of a newcomer on the scene. He won Group B at 5-2, and so he takes the number one seed there. But I know he's had a heck of an OTSL run, Jr.
Yeah. Very, very impressive. 14-0 in OTSL Gold. OTSL Gold, for those of you who haven't participated, is the higher division of OTSL. So we roughly segregate based on rating and play deck and all that stuff. And I mean, it's just tough. Like you look at your schedule in OTSL Gold and you're like, woof, this game sucks. You go to the next game, woof, this game. So going 14-0 there is just wild.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of great players in OTSL Gold. There just are no easy wins there.
No.
Sometimes Play Deck will hand people an easy win. That's part of Twilight Struggle. But you never go into a game and be like, all right, well, I've got this guy as long as I just show up. That's just not how it works in OTSL Gold. But
right.
Okay, we've got the number one seeds here. And so we will now move on to the number two seeds. And now, as I said before, we will not allow any rematches in group play from group play to happen in either round one or in the quarterfinals. So I will remove Alan from this first roll, and we will find out which number two seed will be in line to potentially face me. We've got Scott, we've got Graham, or we've got Josiah. It's going to be Scott. Scott Senin is certainly a great player, although he is making his first appearance in the Atlantic League playoffs.
Yeah. Scott, a very good player. Made a nice little run in OTSL playoffs this last year, I believe.
Indeed.
I don't think I've had the pleasure to play him, but he's been around for a while.
Yeah, he has. He's had a little bit of a rough go of it in Atlantic League, but he did win the Americas Conference in ITSL. I believe it was a couple of years ago now. And back when there were three conferences, he defeated Michael Stryker in a best of five to win the Americas Conference. So certainly going to be a tough out is Scott. And now we will add back in Alan. Scott came from Group A, so Harry can play any one of these three guys. Not necessarily play them, but they would be in line to play Harry. We'll spin this, and it's going to be Alan. So I don't know Alan very well, although he did hand me my only loss of the year in Atlantic League. It was a game where I had a chance to take a tie, decided not to, and then regretted it quite quickly. But Alan's definitely a good player, and we will see. JR, have you ever played against Alan?
I have not. He's one of the couple players that I just don't know a whole lot about, other than the fact he beat you, which is funny to me, especially because you were sweating it. The fact you were 6-1 and you were potentially there was a path for you to miss playoffs. It was it would have been pretty fun with your Atlantic League history.
Yes. Yeah, I was 5-1 at one point, and there was definitely a path for me to miss out on the playoffs. Obviously, once I beat Ted, I locked up the playoff berth. It is not possible for anyone who is 6-1 to miss the playoffs in this format.
Yeah,
But at 5-1, yes, that would have been classic me. But yeah, Alan's a good player. And one thing I do remember about Alan is I needed my division leader in OTSL one year to lose another game so I could win the division. And Alan, who had a terrible year in OTSL, I think it was 2-11 or something like that, beat him so that I could win the division. So I was very happy with Alan for doing that. And so yeah, he will be a good player, and we'll see who he gets to play in the number when we pick the number 3 seed in just a moment. Okay, so we've got Josiah and we've got Graham left. So Graham came out of Group B, so he cannot play against James in the quarterfinals. So we've actually already decided this. It's going to be Josiah.
easy. And I'll just talk for a second while you're writing these in. Josiah, probably the player I'd be the most scared of these 2 seeds personally.
Yeah.
Very good player. I think he's top 30 or so right now in ITSR. Post most of his games to YouTube, which is nice. Go check him out. Yeah, just a nice guy.
Yeah, I like Josiah. I played Josiah in, I believe, his very first competitive game in the Twilight Struggle community, and to be honest with you, he struggled. He made several moves that didn't make a ton of sense, but he has come a long way from those days, including a runner-up finish in Atlantic League a couple of years ago. I believe did he win OTSL Silver, JR, or was he the runner-up?
I think he was the runner-up. I'm gonna pull that up just real quick so I don't slander him if I'm wrong. But I think he ended up as the runner-up in OTSL Silver Season 5.
Okay,
if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah, this is this is a good player who has made a ton of big leaps, and is a guy who's going to be a tough out for anybody. So Josiah would line up to play against James Hawks potentially.
Okay, I will just say he won OTSL Silver. So my apologies, Josiah. He did win that.
All right.
In Season 5.
Okay. Well, Josiah does not appear to be in the chat at the moment. We're a little bit short on viewers given the short notice in the early time. But I'm sure we'll get some folks watching later. So Josiah, for the record, won it all in OTSL Silver, and he's in OTSL Gold this season. But that's going to do it for our number 2 seeds. So for our number 3s, since we have A against D and B against C, and they're switched around here, actually only 2 possible number 3s. So I can only take the ones from B and C. So we can't take Ted and we can't take Woo. It's going to be Ed or Jeff going up against Scott. So let's find out who that's going to be. It is going to be Jeff. Okay, so Jeff Watkins, a little bit new to the community, but not new to Twilight Struggle at all. He defeated me in the championship game of the PresCon tournament, and he is also part of Team Maryland, who Team BC will be playing in the 3rd place series in US Cup. But he's a good player, and yeah, JR, I believe you picked him to win it all when we did the initial as a dark horse, as your dark horse candidate to win it all when we did the initial bracket, the initial group draw.
Yeah, and I mean now he just gets to beat you again in the quarters, like he did at PresCon. So he's got a good path to get there now.
Yep. He sure does. So Ed Prem is also available. Ed cannot go here because he was in Group B. He also cannot go here, so he can only go here. So we will do Ed Prem. We'll play Alan for the right to play Harry. And then we've got Woo Lee, who survived the group of death, got past got into the playoffs in a group with Tim, Scott, and Harry. And then, of course, we have one Ted Livermore, who is my DC teammate and making yet another appearance in the Atlantic League playoffs. And one of them will go here to play against Josiah, and the other will play Graham. Let's see who is who. It's going to be Ted against Josiah. All right.
All right, that means we'll get to watch some YouTube VODs of Ted play.
Yeah. So Ted was 3D, and then
Josiah, some free advice. Overprotect North Korea. Maybe T1 AR1. Honestly, just do it right now if you
yep,
can.
yeah, no question about it. Ted is a known North Korea jammer, and he so that often works out well for him. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do it in our last game, but yeah, as soon as Ted gets the China card, expect him to jam North Korea. But anyway, this is our draw. So taking a look at it, JR, what are your early thoughts on it? Who's got a tougher path than expected? What are your thoughts here?
I've got to say, I think your program to roll well for yourself did well. I think the bottom portion of this bracket is tough. Um, a bunch of players that I know and think of as very good players down there. I would be not that there's easy top half of the bracket, but I think I'd be a little happier if I ended up in the top half. Maybe I'd feel like I could play deck my way out of a couple more wins up there. Especially, just Josiah, Ted, James is a brutal little group of three there. I would not look forward to being in that little section.
Yeah. Whoever comes out of that one will be tested. And oh, hey, Alex, I see you joined the chat. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, JR and I are unfortunately just on a Discord call, so I don't know how to add you. But we're about to wrap up anyway. We've both got work meetings coming up at the bottom of the hour. But yeah, a lot of good players here. We've got certainly James and Ryan are on a collision course for the semifinals, but 4 good players in the first round to potentially derail that. All right, well, JR, once again, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I'm gonna ask you to pick your champion here, and then I'm gonna ask you to pick your dark horse to see who can make a run in Atlantic League.
All right. Well, for my champion, I'm gonna pick Jeff Watkins again. I picked him as my dark horse in the first draft, so I got to be consistent. And I'll go with him as my champion. And for my dark horse, I'm gonna pick a guy who hasn't had very much success in the Atlantic League, but I think he is probably a good player. And I think I'm going to pick this guy, Justin Abramson, as my dark horse. We'll see if he can win a playoff series and, move on. I think that's your Achilles heel in this league.
Oh God, I'm the dark horse. That's right. Yeah, and that's appropriate. That is entirely appropriate. Is that I, as the number 1 seed and tournament commissioner, I am absolutely a dark horse, sneaky candidate to potentially steal a tournament win.
If you want to go over, go to the format tab real quick, just for a second. I just wanted to check because I think you have listed over there, previous champions and Champions League qualifiers, and over there in pot 1, there's at least one guy there who has no highlighting on his name.
Yeah, that must have been a mistake. Yeah, I don't know.
But hopefully both you and Scott can do well here.
Yeah, sadly, that's not in the cards because we are slated to potentially match up in the quarterfinals. So only one of us, a maximum of one of us, can make the Champions League. And if Jeff has anything to say about it, neither one of us will.
Yeah, that's right. Because, that third place game will be big. I did check. You're right. Your league will get probably 3 Champions League spots. So even if you get knocked out in the semis here, that third place game is going to be huge if you want to participate in Champions League, which is a very fun league.
Yeah, I I would like to participate one of these years, but I have to actually win games in Atlantic League, which has been hard for me to do. So yeah, we'll see if I'm able to actually do that. A tough playoff field. For those of you in Atlantic League, I'll publish this bracket. We can get going. Deadline for round one, we'll do, since this bracket was revealed a few days late, we'll do October 6th. That's a Sunday. So 2 weeks and change from now is our deadline for round one. Then 2 weeks moving forward with 2 weeks for the quarterfinals, 2 weeks for the semifinals, and then hoping to wrap up the championship and third place series by November 20th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. Obviously, we have until the end of the year to complete things, but people tend to get busy during the holidays, during December. So we try and wrap this up by Thanksgiving if we possibly can. JR, I know you got to go to work. I've got to go back to work. But any final thoughts on this one before we close out?
No, I'm excited to watch the games that do get streamed or posted to YouTube. There's a handful of guys there that do that. So I'm going to hope that they all go deep into the tournament so that there's more Twilight Struggle to watch.
Yeah. Yes, I stream all of my games live. I try to stream other Atlantic League games live that people send me. But I know Ed, Josiah, and Harry all put their games on YouTube. So there's plenty of Atlantic League Twilight Struggle to watch. JR, thank you for joining me. Folks in the chat, thank you guys. Scott, I see you joined in late. A nice easy draw for you, potentially seeing me in the quarterfinal. So you must be thrilled about that. We will see how things go. Before we wrap up, Alex asked, is there an East versus West Coast? So if we, JR, perhaps we can organize this year. We talked about it last year. Perhaps we can organize it this year of, an East versus West best of three before we get into Champions League, maybe involve Derek's league as well. So we will see about that. But I hope that you guys would be open to that.
You want to get Midwest League involved? I thought we were just doing the real leagues, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see. Anyway, so something to think about, food for thought. But thank everybody for joining. I'll have as many of these playoff games for you as I can. And I hope, of course, that's because I'm advancing far in the tournament. But that's as JR said, I'm a dark horse candidate. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day. That was fun, but now it's done. So long, everybody.